Get hyped, girls and guys. We are only 2 days away from E3, but we're right in the middle of the press conference section. EA had theirs yesterday, with Microsoft and Bethesda up to bat today. As you may know, however, we at the Commonwealth Realm are most hyped for Nintendo's E3 Direct coming this Tuesday, which will have a runtime of 45 minutes as opposed to last year's measly 25. In order to achieve maximum hype for this Direct, we're going to look back at Nintendo's best E3s over the years, and to help us talk about these shows is Nintendo E3 expert Bennett Peanut Crunch Billard.
Hey y'all! Bennett is my name and E3s are my game. Well, the games, those are my games. But E3 reveals those to us, and I love it for it. Anyway, for this list, we're not only going to look at E3s that succeeded at a presentational standpoint, but also those that had a healthy blend of excitement on the show floor. After all, you could have a really crappy presentation while also having good games to demo, and vice versa. So, without further ado, let's get right into it.
In 2007 and 2008, Nintendo was not bringing the hype with their newly released Wii. That didn't stop Wiis from flying off the shelves, but they should have put more effort into these shows. Or less. At least 2007 gave us the infamous "My body is ready" meme. That said, E3 2009 was a welcome recovery from those 2 years, with the announcement of new Super Mario Bros. Wii, Wii Sports Resort, a new Crystal Chronicles game, Red Steel 2, Kingdom Hearts, and closing the show with a brand new Metroid game. Yeah, we all know how that turned out, but it was still exciting back then. Cue the other apologists. The 2009 show had a healthy focus of both Nintendo Wii and Nintendo DS, because they didn't have a handheld home console hybrid back then. But we're still, to this day, waiting for that Wii Vitality sensor. Come on, Reggie, we know you're hiding it somewhere.
2005 marked the beginning of a transition for Nintendo, as it was for many companies at the time. During their E3 conference, they talked a lot about the newly released Nintendo DS, which took a world without smartphones by storm. You could hear cheers from the audience during the sizzle reel, where they showed the new Animal Crossing, Metroid, Nintendogs and more. This also included a tease for the very first new Super Mario Bros. Game, the first 2D Mario platformer since the early 90s. However, gamers were clamoring for the next generation of hardware, especially considering Microsoft was close to releasing the Xbox 360.
And what better way to show off your next console than by having President Satoru Iwata himself pull it right out of his pocket? Genius! The Nintendo Revolution name ultimately wouldn't stick, as the final Wii branding would be applied April of the following year. But nevertheless, we were intrigued by the promise of a console that would combine casual and core gameplay experiences and the ability to download 20 years worth of Nintendo games into one system. We would have to wait a little longer to hear more details, but they closed the show with The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. Not a bad conference, if you ask me.
Oh boy. I remember this E3 like it was just yesterday. Mainly because it was only 2 years ago, but so many of us were actually concerned about E3 2016. Where Nintendo wasn't going to talk about their next generation of hardware, the NX, and would only have one game playable. One game! Even with the odds stacked against them, they managed to pull it off without a hitch. It certainly helps that the one game they showed off was The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, one of the most anticipated games, like, ever. And thanks to the revolutionary open-air design of the game, people were rushing to Nintendo's booth the minute the doors opened, and it was the most talked about game that year. So in the year without a video presentation or even a press conference, Nintendo's Zelda game managed to nab Game of the Show from multiple outlets, and the rest is history.
If you were the owner of a GameCube back in 2002, Nintendo's press conference that year was the stuff of dreams. Seriously, they demonstrated some of the GameCube's best exclusives of its entire career, from Metroid Prime to Super Mario Sunshine. Video gaming giants indeed. Of course, we also can't forget about that Animal Crossing trailer, which was seriously the most early 2000s thing of the early 2000s. Oh my gosh. You know, where are those kid actors now? Kid actors, if you're watching this, comment below. We want to hear from you. What are you up to?
However, 2002 also offered something for horror fans who got some action with the Resident Evil 1 remake, Zero, and cult classic Eternal Darkness. Game Boy Advance owners were also treated fairly well with a new Golden Sun and Zelda Four Swords, though most cared about the Wind Waker demo that Miyamoto played at the end of the conference. This show reassured early GameCube adopters that they made the right purchase.
Out of all the E3s on this list, 2010 was probably the best in terms of its presentation. Well, aside from the Skyward Sword demo at the beginning. Almost every game shown off at this press conference wound up being top-notch for unexpected reasons. These were games like Epic Mickey, a remake of GoldenEye, and who would have thought Kirby's Epic Yarn would have been as good as it was? I know I didn't. What's that? You want a new Donkey Kong Country game? You got it! After Nintendo made Wii owners happy, they revealed the piece de resistance, the Nintendo 3DS. This unique piece of hardware would support glasses-free 3D and would come with epic titles such as Kid Icarus Uprising and a remaster of one of the greatest games, Ocarina of Time. Safe to say, the theme of that year was epic.
Nintendo had one goal to achieve in 2006, to sell everyone on this crazy new Wii concept. And with the conference at the Academy Awards hosting Kodak Theatre, currently the Dolby Theatre, they succeeded with flying colors. The first 5 minutes of the showcase alone were nothing but pure hype, from Miyamoto conducting a Mii orchestra to Reggie's badass speech. Yeah, they may have also demonstrated why the brand new DS Lite would become the definitive version of the system, but everyone was way too busy by the Wii craze.
Here Nintendo showed off a couple of Wii launch titles like Red Steel, Rayman Raving Rabbids, and of course, Wii Sports. Even one lucky fan got to play on stage with Iwata, Reggie, and Miyamoto. How cool is that? We even caught a glimpse of 2007's Super Mario Galaxy, which proved that a game doesn't need to be HD to be gorgeous. Most people had standard def TVs back then anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. We may make fun of such exaggerated motion controls in this current generation of gaming, but back in 2006, it was all the rage.
The Nintendo Switch had its first E3 just last year in 2017. And I don't know about you, but some of us didn't have the highest expectations going in. Their video presentation, the Nintendo Spotlight, would only be 25 minutes long. How could they get us excited with such a short runtime? 3 words: Metroid Prime 4. Okay, it was more than just that. While it was exciting to see games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Kirby, Yoshi, and Fire Emblem Warriors, they didn't hold a candle to Super Mario Odyssey, which promised a sandbox experience similar to Super Mario 64 and Sunshine. Their booth was all decked out like New Donk City, and everyone wanted a piece of that Mario pie. Like Breath of the Wild the year before, this game also stole the show, but this year was also important to Nintendo for other reasons. The Switch was mentioned in every other press conference, besides Sony's, in some way, shape, or form. However, the most noteworthy mention was at Ubisoft's conference, which officially revealed Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, a game so many fans scorned when it was leaked months back. Davide Soliani and his teams at Ubisoft Paris and Milan defied all the haters in a grand reveal that was worth crying tears of joy. This is why we love E3.
2001 was the year when Nintendo decisively gave up to push their own trade show, Nintendo Space World, as E3 marked the beginning of the traditional live press conferences and massive Nintendo reveals that we know, along with the much larger presentation and trusted reactions from the audience in response to the GameCube truly made this conference special. There was something wonderful about the more direct stage audience dynamic in these earlier years. It was also here that the wider world was introduced to Mr. Satoru Iwata, a kind and gentle face we will never forget. Well, he wasn't so gentle when it came to industry trends. Man, that speech was incredible.
The GameCube debut was headlined by the likes of Luigi's Mansion and a brand new Miyamoto IP, Pikmin, as well as a certain small indie title, Super Smash Bros. Melee. You might have heard of it. Nintendo would use this conference to make the point of just how developer-friendly this console was, which, aside from the small discs, couldn't have been more true since it was the second most powerful console that generation. They had a brief compilation of the developers talking about working on games for the system, and they... Wait, what? Is that a new Metroid game? Wow, it's been like 7 years since the last game. Some things never change. Regardless, E3 2001 was a harder memory to preserve since live telecasts and streams weren't a thing back then, but it was still an important one for Nintendo and E3 as a whole.
Yeah, you already know where we're going with this. E3 2004 introduced us to the Nintendo hype man Reggie Fils-Aimé, and headlining the show were 3 GameCube titles: Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, Resident Evil 4, and Star Fox Assault. Not a bad little lineup at all. We also got the Game Boy Advance SP, and you can watch TV shows on it, but you would soon not care because the Nintendo DS just got announced. It would sport 2 screens with resistive touch controls and games like Metroid Prime Hunters and Super Mario 64 DS. You would think the announcement of a new handheld console would steal the show, but you would be wrong. The press conference ended with the announcement of a new, realistic Zelda game, and what resulted was probably the best E3 reaction of all time. This was most definitely in response to fans' criticisms over the Wind Waker's cartoony art style, and so the fans got what they wanted in return with Twilight Princess. Of course, they would have to wait over 2 years before they could actually buy it. Again, some things just never change.
Before we get to number 1, I feel it would be a crime not to give this honorable mention. E3 1996, the first year E3 officially became an annual event. Being the early days of the expo, this is a far smaller scale presentation, but the interest in the soon-to-launch Nintendo 64 system can't be understated. The best evidence of this was the audience's live reaction to Super Mario 64. While it wasn't the most insane presentation, like other entries on the list, we have to give them credit for single-handedly demonstrating what video games could and would become. And shout out to E3 2015's Jim Henson Puppet Show. That was pretty cool. And hey, even the Star Fox and Super Mario Maker bookends from that show were pretty neat. The digital event in between, though... Seriously, who cut that? The thing is horrendously sequenced. Who approved that Federation Force trailer? Good night.
Oh wait, I hear you saying somehow E3 2004 is your number 2 pick? What could possibly be better than Miyamoto emerging on stage with a Master Sword and a Hylian shield? Call this a bit of a hot take, but Joseph and I are confident that Nintendo's best E3 took place in the year of 2014. Yes, the Wii U wasn't Nintendo's strongest platform, like, at all, but you would not have thought at all if you were at E3 that year. After good proof of concept in 2013, Nintendo, for good, abandoned the press conferences and replaced it permanently with the digital event, which proved to be as a good show. It certainly helps that they hired the likes of Robot Chicken to create a clever and self-aware sketches. That and just a glimpse of the new Zelda game for Wii U were enough to get fans excited for the future, the very far future.
Despite 2004 having the more exciting presentation, 2014 struck the absolute best balance between excitement at the time and the quality of that content come release day. Super Smash Bros., Bayonetta 2, Zelda, a new IP in the form of Splatoon, and Pac-Man is in Smash Brothers? You're killing us, Sakurai, kill us some more. And if you were still thirsting for a live show of sorts, the Super Smash Bros. Invitational Tournament was your bag. And it was loads of fun to watch. Include all the developer interviews and fun bits between segments, and you've got a Nintendo E3 presentation to measure above all others. And so concludes our top 10 Nintendo E3 list. Did you agree with it? Did you not? Let us know in the comments section below. And heck, maybe even include your own top 10 as well. And we'd also like to thank Bennett Peanut Crunch Billard for bringing his E3 expertise to this episode. Let us know where we can find you.
Well, if you're on Twitter, you can follow me at peanut_crunch, and on YouTube, I'm under the name Son of Mr. Peanut. I don't post much in the way of videos, but you'll find me in many a comment section. Also, if you live in the LA Orange County area, I'm a singer in the Metropolitan Master Chorale. We're off season right now, but starting in the fall, I'd highly encourage you to check out our shows.
Thanks again, Bennett, and if you liked this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you are new for more Nintendo E3 coverage this week. We'd love to hit 150,000 subscribers by the time the show ends on Thursday, so don't hesitate to hit that big red button. We'd also like to thank our patrons, including Royal Producer Kenyatta Ali, for their contributions to the realm. If you'd like to support us financially in exchange for some awesome perks and swag, visit patreon.com/commonrealm. In the meantime, girls and guys, we'll see you on Tuesday for our Nintendo Direct live stream.
Also guys, make sure to tune in to our many E3 live streams, as we'll be live streaming the Bethesda conference, the Square Enix conference, the Ubisoft conference, and obviously the Nintendo conferences. All live streams begin 30 minutes before the conferences with a pre-show hosted by me, Joseph, and also Alan Plummer, as you maybe remember from last year, and the Nintendo live stream will then begin at 8:30 AM PT. That will be 11:30 ET, 17:30 CET, and finally London time 4:30 GMT.